Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new Take Aim podcast this week. Blake Garrett's with me from the Unfiltered Outdoor app, and we talk all things turkey hunting. Blake was just in Kansas, Missouri, a couple birds in Kansas, I should say, Nebraska, just slammed one last night in South Dakota as well. We talk about the crazy issues socially with the coronavirus and some of the state agency changing, shortening, even canceling some of the seasons around the nation. And as well, congrats to Blake on an amazing season, one that he will never forget turkey hunting-wise. Just an awesome accomplishment on Blake's part, so congrats, buddy. Awesome work. All right, guys, we're live, brand new Take Aim podcast, and as always, excited to start the Turkmerk season or tour. As always, every spring with Blake Garrett, and excited to have Blake back on and talk some turkey hunting. What's up, Blake?
Not much, man. On the road, headed home. Been a long 7 days, but very, very fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been, like always, trying to follow you and see what you're up to and where you're at, and I was even a little short on the turkey numbers when we were just talking offline because it's been like an explosion of dead birds everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always try to make a run out west and really take advantage of the early season. Here in Missouri, we don't open till usually mid to late April. So I really try to get, out to Nebraska for their opener, the 25th of March, and try to shoot at least one bird with the bow then, and then really April 1st, and kind of start hitting, Kansas and South Dakota and those other states too, just to try to get in some early hunts and get some birds down before really the brunt of the turkey rut, as we call it, it happens. You know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, what's so crazy is, it's so nice for you being so close to Nebraska, but it's crazy that state relatively compared to mine is a month before my state opens here in Michigan, and even Indiana, March 25th. So literally you buy your license and then this whole COVID thing happens and you're like one of the lucky ones had already bought a license before they actually ended up canceling the season. I thought we needed to talk about that a little bit just because, what are the odds of that happening?
Yeah, so super weird year. I mean, this is, crazy, and I think the uncertainty just has a lot of people shook and, heck, who knows? I don't think anybody really knows what all it's going to bring, but it brought the country to its knees, that's for sure. And kind of saw it coming. There was talks about, you see on Facebook everybody's talking about, canceling turkey seasons and stuff like that. And I figured they wouldn't do that. But I did figure that the only way they could really manage the travel would be to shut down tags. So, I bought every tag for out of state as early as possible. And I actually bought them, back at the beginning of March. And got out all of them. I knew I was going to Nebraska to shoot 2. I knew I was going to shoot 2 in Kansas, and I knew I could only shoot 1 in South Dakota. So I just went and bought all those tags and had them, and I thought, worst comes to worst, they're going to tell me they are going to cancel it, and they're going to give my money back. Best case scenario, they're not going to do anything. Of course, they did something right in the middle, but we ended up being okay with it. Yeah, super interesting, and, we went out there on the 25th, and I shot a bird. I think I didn't hunt the 25th, the actual opener. I was just helping, had a buddy in camp, and we were kind of just really scouting and kind of moving around and trying to find some birds, and we hunted 26, killed a bird that day, and then my buddy had shot his birds already, too, so we just kind of got out of there, and we came back for a couple days back in Missouri because youth season opened this last Saturday there. And of course, I was Hagen hunting. And I wanted to scout a little bit, so I scouted just a couple days, just listened in the mornings on some of the farms to see where some birds were. And had one bird that really did everything that they do, normally on that farm. So I kind of had him figured out and moved a blind on him that day, and then it set for 2 days, and then we hunted for youth, and it worked like a charm. I mean, went in there, super horrible conditions. I mean, 30 degrees, 25-mile-an-hour north wind, rain, kind of dreary, just rainy, kind of. Just honestly, I didn't think we would kill him, but went in, and I got him to gobble on the tree, and then he gobbled one time on the ground, and then about an hour later, he just showed up in the field, and we're working with robotic decoys this year, and kind of a cool company that they really make their bread and butter out of selling moving decoys to game and parks and to the conservation departments for guys that shoot them off the road. I know you've seen those videos before of like guys getting out and shooting deer, robo deer, and stuff off the road.
How they catch the poachers. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy makes those decoys, and he got a hold of me and wanted to kind of make some stuff for the hunting application. So we started kind of working together this year on, I don't know, kind of bridging the gap. I mean, there's some differences that, you know, hunters would need that game wardens don't really have an issue with and things like that. So we're kind of playing with it, but he got me a turkey and a strutter, and it's beautiful and moves. I mean, the movement's just unreal. And anyway, we had it. That was really the first hunt for it that it, you know, the movement I think really helped us. But the bird came out 200 yards and really wasn't strutting, just kind of nervous, high head, you know, looking pretty hard, and just rotated it just a little bit. I kept the fan up and just kind of rotated it, and man, the bird it was like a light switch, you know, just came straight in, beeline, and Hagen shot him at like 14 yards, I think, right at the decoy.
Hey, Blake,
so
real quick, explain some of the movement of that decoy and how it operates.
Yeah, so it has a pretty big base on it. It doesn't have a stake. It's got a big square base on it, and that's where a lot of the mechanicals are inside of it. But it'll rotate 360 degrees, and then it'll also drop the fan all the way down and pick it all the way back up. And I've kind of played with both, and a lot of times I'll run it just with the fan up all the time and just do the rotation of it. But it's unreal, you know, what a little bit of movement does for you. If you got wind and you have some decent decoys that kind of, you know, bounce around in the wind, you're okay. But it's really hard to find a good strutter that has movement. And this is a way where you can really manipulate the movement of it, no matter if it's calm or windy or what's going on. And it's a fully mounted turkey, so it looks absolutely lifelike. I mean, it's unreal how good it looks on top of it. So, you know, if it's got guys getting out of trucks and shooting at it, it's going to fool a turkey.
Yeah, it's got to look good then.
Yeah, absolutely. But, so we did that, and that was super cool to get his bird. Hagen's always a trooper, man. It seems like no matter what, that kid has to hunt, you know, 2 days through youth, and he'll usually hunt 2 or 3 days in regular season before he fills the tag. And this year it was a nice, you know, hour and a half long sit, and he was done. So it's always nice, because that's really my most, I guess I'll say, the one that gives me all the nerves, or you know, his bird and his deer for the year. So get that out of the way and done. And we knew, you know, I think we had 2 or 3 days before we got back on the road and kind of made what we called the COVID-19 turkey tour this year. But everything's in lockdown, and, you know, it's chaos, and we're getting locals that are, you know, flipping us off and don't like us in their area because they think we're bringing Corona. But we actually traveled really smart. Really? And oh yeah. I mean, but we actually traveled really smart, you know. I mean, we didn't go in unless we absolutely had to go to the bathroom or something, and always washed our hands, always used hand sanitizer when we got back in the truck. Paid at the pump 90% of the time, you know, and it's funny because I'm on my way back now from it, but I think I came in contact with 3 people, and those were my 3 contacts in those states. Those are the only 3 people I literally was within 6 feet of. So it wasn't like we were being reckless or careless on the travel. And I think, you know, if you have it in mind and just stay smart about it, I don't see the problem with it at all. But that was, you know, I don't either,
Blake. I was thinking about that too. And right before they canceled the Nebraska season, I was actually had this conversation with my wife that I was thinking about heading out there, and I was actually going to call you and see where, you know, roundabout where you're going to be or what time you're going to be out there, because I was like, man, it's perfect time to go do this. And we had this discussion, me and my wife, and I was like, the only person you're going to, like, I'm not going to see anybody. There's not really, like you said, pay at the pump. You can do all these things to kind of keep that social distance, and even you can do that if you're common sense, an adult, any way, shape, or form. You can do that even with your buddies while you're hunting. So, but I'm glad you brought that up and just pointed it out, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got some flack from it, and it is what it is. I mean, like I said, we're not being reckless. We're not by any means. I mean, none of us want to get this thing. None of us want to help spread this thing. obviously we're being mindful of it. But at the end of the day, I can't shut down. I've got 30 days, essentially 35 days roughly, I'll say, in the spring, to where we got to get all the content for the year for turkeys. And I can't sit at home. It's not something I can go back and do in the end of May whenever they release all this stuff, or, they say the numbers are going down. I mean, I just gotta make it happen. So, if at any point it was going to be a thing that was dangerous, or I felt like was risky or any of that, then obviously, we wouldn't have done it. But it made sense, and ultimately, it still makes sense, even on the way back. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And God forbid this lasts to the fall, but to me, the same thing goes for deer hunting. It'd be very easy to do in the same token, the same manner that you're speaking of right now, to deer hunt in that manner, So
absolutely, yeah.
I don't fear, that. Hopefully, I mean, we're done with this in May or June, and we don't even have to think like that. So I'll just stop talking about that.
No, you're absolutely right. I tell you what, it scares me, the thing, and I'll just get off topic a little bit, but the thing that scares me the most is with states, restricting non-resident travel like that is a matter of, like Kansas, for instance. Kansas started smart. Like they had a quarantine list, and they had like really high, areas of really high concentration of the COVID-19 stuff, and those people had to be quarantined for 14 days before they came. Like, I get that one, but man, shutting it down is gonna hurt the state. It's gonna hurt the money that comes in, and my biggest fear out of this whole situation personally is the economy, not so much the disease or the virus, I guess I should say. It's more about what that economy, because the economy, no matter if I'm smart and say I do social distancing and say I lock myself in my house for the next 3 months, the economy is still going to affect me no matter what, and probably in a bigger way than what the coronavirus would. So that's a scary thing for me, and I really hope that if, heaven forbid, it does go into the fall, that they really try to just educate people better on kind of how to do it right, I guess I should say, for traveling, as opposed to just having the solution be don't travel, because I think that's almost too far on that end of the spectrum to where it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a hard time with that just logically. I mean, obviously, I don't want to lose any bit of freedom from our government,
right.
But if you have an airplane in the air right now, or a subway or a train, anything that's commuting any people, I have a hard time believing you can tell me I can't travel in my own car to go do an outdoor activity. You're promoting outdoor activities all over the place.
Right, so, exactly. I hope it doesn't. I hope it isn't like a leverage thing. Go ahead.
Right. No, go ahead. But I was just that. I hope. Yeah, I hope it's not like a leverage thing from anti-hunters to where they're like, we can just dismiss the hunting stuff because it's hunting and whatever, because it's really probably the best thing that people could do right now as outdoor recreation goes, and the safest thing they can go do. It's honestly safer than going and walking in a park where there's other people walking. So absolutely,
hopefully,
100% it is.
Hopefully it comes around, but we'll see.
And totally off topic, but our new governor just asked everybody to not use motorized boats. And this time of year, if you live anywhere near the Great Lakes, everybody's walleye fishing like crazy. You can, pretty much be by yourself on a boat on the river, Detroit River, Lake Erie, and fish. And she just shut all that down. So I just don't get the, how crazy that is that you're promoting outdoor activities, but you're limiting a father and son from being on a boat together that's motorized. Like, it just blows my mind. So, and like you're talking about the economy, I mean, a huge part of the economy here in Michigan is fishing license. Like, it's absolutely madness what these guys go do out there and slaughter the walleyes. There's boats and boats and boats, and just I can't even imagine the economic downfall from guys that now won't be buying license for the rest of the summer or the next month or two while the fishing's hot.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's the scary part, and that's the part I hope, I don't know. I just hope it comes out of it all right.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, back to turkey hunting and screw the bad news.
Screw the bad news. So, no, we wrapped up youth on Saturday. Then we got on the road Sunday for Kansas because they opened on Monday. Got out there. I always hunt with my buddy Cody Pieper out in western Kansas. And Cody always has a ton of birds. He runs a ranch out there, and his family owns a ranch, and it's just thousands of acres. But Rios, spread out kind of wide open. They're usually, tight groups this time of the year, and really it's usually kind of a tough time to kill them, to be honest with you. We've always kind of struggled with it every year because reaping just doesn't, some of them just aren't aggressive enough for reaping, and the hens aren't really breeding yet, so, they're not calling well. And, if you want to, in my experience, if you want to kill a Rio, it's the best to go late April because you can call a Rio for miles. I mean, if he can hear you and you can hear him gobble, he can be there within 5 minutes, They just love to travel, and they call really well. And we got out there and quickly realized that, like, these birds were already spread out. It was almost like you were hunting them in May. They were, broke up into little bitty groups, like one tom and 5 hens, or heck, we even saw like one tom and 1 hen out in the middle of nowhere. The hens were already going to nest, and toms were, coming off of hens at like noon and calling like crazy. So, I mean, we just went into that strategy of, okay, that's easy. Then, we're going to run no strutters. We're going to run just hens. And we're really going to run and gun, which with the bow is always tough because, you got the blind and everything. But we just pretty much run and gun with the blind to where we'd pull into a farm and I'd hit the box call and we'd get a bird to gobble, way away. And I'd hit it again. And if he answered us twice, he was pretty much going to come. Usually we found out the ones that were, the ones that would gobble the first time had hens if they shut up after that. But if they answered you a second time, they were probably, able to come. So we would just get them to gobble twice and then just go at them with the blind and really just try to get far enough to where you couldn't see the truck and pop it. And we did that the first day. And, man, it was like 1 o'clock, I think, and it was warm, 86 degrees. And we got literally put the decoys out, got in the blind, and had a bird come in silent from behind us. And we were in the blind 30 seconds, and we hear spit drum, and there's a bird behind the blind strutting. And he ended up going low and couldn't see the decoys. So I keep calling. Well, then I hear other birds coming, and we ended up, long story short, we ended up calling in 5 different birds from kind of different areas, all at, right into our set, and ended up having a bird come across and see the decoys, come in the right way, see the decoys and work right in. And he kind of held up at 30, and I shot him at 30, and he didn't go, probably 35 yards. And got him tagged out. So we killed, our first bird opening day in Kansas at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So after we figured that out,
and
we're like,
it was
okay,
86, cool. You said?
Yeah, 86 degrees that day. It was warm
out there. Hot, especially the first. That's probably your legit first warm day of spring. So it probably felt like it was 106.
Oh man, and in a pop-up, it was really bad. I mean, it was so warm that my camera actually was throwing a temp warning and actually shut off at one point.
No way.
It was probably, I mean, it had to be, if you're figuring 86 degrees, it had to be 90-something in that blind, inside those,
sure.
Those pop-ups for sure. But once we kind of figured that out, that's what those birds were doing, we did the same thing the next day and really tried them in the morning. They didn't do anything off the roost. And then we went in midday, found a bird, just could barely hear him. I mean, just could barely hear him. We were standing on top of a hill, and I could just barely hear him over there. And all of a sudden, Ross, my intern, was with us, and Ross was like, man, there's something down there moving. I don't know what it is. Get your binos and look. And I looked, and it was him. He came out of the timber, and he was probably, I'm going to say every bit of 800, 900 yards away, just coming. We're like, holy crap. So we all run back to the truck and grab the blind and no chairs, just grab the blind and a decoy and kind of crest the hill, but we're only probably 100 yards from the truck. And I just put the decoys out. Well, we're right on the neighbor's fence and sat there just probably 10 minutes, and here he is. He shows up, but he's on the other side of the fence. And that bird strutted from 18 yards to 12 yards up and down the fence for 43 minutes.
Holy crap.
And wouldn't cross it. Yeah, I swear to you, for 43 minutes. And we ended up, I was letting him, he'd come back and forth, and I'd talk to him when he'd kind of lose interest, and he'd come back. And finally, I was like, I'm not going to call to him anymore. I'm just going to let him either walk away or cross this fence. Well, after like 5 minutes, he just decided he was going to cross, and he crosses the fence and comes in and end up shooting him at 20 yards, and he went like 10 yards. He went nowhere, and got, was right down. So those two hunts were kind of cool hunts of just kind of, figuring out what they wanted. And usually, typically, anywhere you hunt, if birds are going to call, you're going to always call satellite birds first, especially early in the year, because your dominant toms are with hens, and they're not going to call well early. So we kind of changed our setups for that to where we'll only run hens, and really, try to be vocal as much as you can, because those are going to be the aggressive birds, are going to be those satellite birds that are really going to respond well and come running, into the decoys.
Right.
But, so we knocked that out. That was Tuesday. We hung around Wednesday to hang out with Peeper a little bit, and then Thursday morning, we literally got up. I didn't go to bed, but we got up and we got on the road at I want to say 2 o'clock in the morning, and made the 3-hour drive to Nebraska, and got to the blind at 5:15, 5:30 in the morning, which is about an hour before shooting light even is, and got set up. Trey had a blind already, and I'd hunted the blind when I was there the first time, and it's right on a roost, and we had probably, I would say 150 birds within probably 80, 100 yards of us, when we got in the blind. And we tried, we did the same thing. The birds came down. They were still in pretty good groups. There's probably 12, 15 toms in that group in there, and they were gobbling, going crazy, and we ended up calling one bird. The gobblers flew down first. All the hens stayed up. Called one bird in, and he came, pretty hard, came all the way running in and got about 30 yards, and I wasn't going to shoot him at 30. I wanted him to get into the decoys, and all of a sudden the hens started flying out. Well, as soon as they started flying out, he left and went to them. And so we
Blake,
sat there till about...
He got out of the roost first? That bird did?
He did, yeah. All the toms did, yeah. They got down first and just started strutting kind of out underneath, where the hens were roosted. And... I've seen them do that before. They do it a lot more out west than what they do at home. It seems like, at Easterns kind of wait for the hen to get out, at least one hen to get out before they get out. But, those western birds, a lot of times, those hens, heck, I've had hens stay in the tree till 9 o'clock.
Wow.
Up there sometimes. It's kind of weird. I don't know why they do it. But, he had done that, and we ended up, we didn't really see much. We called a bunch. We had a lot of birds answer, but they were just grouped up and going to go do their morning routine, so... About 9:45, I think we got out of there, and we met up with Trey and went to check another place, and kind of just checking in these low spots of the canyons, and found a group of I think there was 3 or 4 hens and 3 gobblers with them, and I was like, well, heck, we'll try to reap them, So grabbed the reapers and popped a corner on them, and it was about 350 yards is how far I went, and they never moved. They never came. They never went. They just strutted in circles. So, heck, I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, and I got to 18 yards from them, and they were just strutting in circles. They never would come to the reaper, but their hens were on the other side of them, so they were kind of in between the reaper and the hens, so I think they just felt content. And they just strut in circles, and there's 2 toms together, and I'd just wait till they both would face the other direction with their fans out, and I'd raise up and range them and then keep going, and shoot. It wasn't very long at all. They both turned around. I just raised up, shot one, and he went 15 yards and died right there, and got that one done, so that worked.
How far away were you, Blake, on that shot?
I was 18 yards.
18 yards you shot him there? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't want to keep pushing it. If I would have had a shotgun, I'd have just go ahead and crawled on up there and seen what happens. But, man, with a bow, you got to be ready, and you got to, turkeys are so, how they are, they're just like a light switch. And at 18 yards, there is no chance I can get my bow up and draw him by the time he'd be on me, if he decided to break, Right. And that was my biggest fear, so I just got into 18 and said, heck, I can do it right here. This is all good. So
Yeah, especially like you said, if they turned and gave you the option with the tail feathers up and they were turned heads completely away from you, it's a good time to shoot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had no idea. I mean, I literally raised up I was like stood up. And they were still strutting when I shot them. Like they just, completely facing the other way with 2 fans out and standing, literally touching fans, right next to each other. So, but yeah, we did that and then got pictures, and then we jumped in the truck and made about a 5.5-hour drive up to South Dakota to hunt with my buddy Joe McDougal. And I hunted with him probably 10 years ago down around Gregory, and then he kind of branched off and started his own stuff, and I've been busy and just hadn't got back up there with him. But this year we kind of made a point to do it, and he's partnered with a couple guys, and they started this South Dakota Premier Outfitters kind of company that's just kind of launching now. They're going to I don't even think they have a Facebook page or an Instagram page yet, but they're going to get it up and running. And it's really just 3 outfitters from that area that kind of all came together and just have hundreds or tens of thousands of acres of private ground now up there in that area, and just doing every kind of hunt you can imagine, from antelope to mule deer, the whitetails, turkeys, coyotes. I mean, that's where we did that coyote episode that Heath and I went up last month.
Same place.
That's where we were. Same place we were turkey hunting up by kind of like by Platte, South Dakota. But Joe is the absolute like animal whisperer. Like you go to his house and he's like Dr. Doolittle. Like there's literally there'll be 15 mule deer like standing on the sidewalk drinking out of his water bowl he has out for them, and there's turkeys running around everywhere and rabbits and squirrel. I mean, it's unreal the animals that are around there, and Joe just likes to watch them and interact with them and stuff.
That's crazy.
The dude knows this stuff. It's unbelievable. Like he'll pick up literally hundreds of sheds a year, and he's killed a lot of great 80s and 70s bucks, in South Dakota, which is not an easy feat, especially with a bow. And
that's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, he's a hunting machine, and really cool to, kind of get to pick his brain and talk to him about. He does a lot of unconventional stuff and how he kind of has learned to work that ground and know that ground. It's just unreal. But, I really didn't have any doubt with him, for turkeys, because I know he puts in the work. And he had popped a couple blinds before we got there and some shelter belts where these birds had been kind of afternooning and stuff like that. So we went out, we stayed the night, got up next morning, went out to one spot, and we had probably a 25-mile-an-hour wind with 40-mile-an-hour gust, and it was 28 degrees. And long story short, we didn't even see a bird, didn't hear a bird where we were. And I guess the birds decided to stay low. They didn't come up to where we were, but we hunted till about 10 o'clock and then went back to the house and ate lunch and just kind of relaxed. And about, I'd say probably 4 o'clock, we went to the shelter belt and looked, and there was a big group of toms, probably I would say 20 or 25 toms in this group with, I'd say, 40 or 50 hens. It was a pretty big group, but they were all in the shelter belt that was probably 300 yards away from us. So we got set up in that other shelter belt that's kind of in between where they were and the roost, and just figured we'd just sit, call softly, and, when they started making their move that evening for the roost, that they'll go through that belt and we should have a chance, I ran the strutter again, and I ran 3 avian hen decoys, just to try to have a group out there. And I figured, heck, if that many toms, one of them has to show some kind of aggression to that strutter if they get close enough. And they ended up working through, and we had toms all over us. And the first tom that came in wasn't the biggest or wasn't the whitest tipped one, he was just a pretty basic tom, a hybrid. And he came in, and the first thing he does, I have a look back avian hen, and she's got her head up high, and I really don't use her very often unless there's tall grass. But in this situation, I just needed numbers of decoys, so I put her out, but I only put her out 5 foot from the blind, legitimately at the end of the tie-down strap, in a double bull. I put her right there kind of to keep her out of the action, to where the other better-looking decoys that actually move a little bit better, and the ones I like personally, like a breeder and a feeder and all that stuff, were a little bit closer to that strutter, because I figured that's where everything was going to be. And this bird, I don't know what happened, but he fell in love with her. And he freaking came in, didn't pay attention to anything else, went right to her and climbed up on top of her. And it's like trying to breed her as all these toms are coming in. There's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 jakes at the strutter trying to fight it. And this bird's sitting on top of my decoy at 5 feet from the blind. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to shoot him, I guess. So we get everything set up, and I draw the bow sitting down. Well, I can't shoot him because the blind. I can just see his head, and that's it. I wasn't going to shoot his head because he had jakes behind him, and I didn't want to try to hit one of them if it went through his head or whatever. So I just drew my bow and stood up, and literally it's the first time I've ever shot a turkey standing up in a blind, and it was, I mean, straight down 5 feet, and I just shot him in the body, and he went, 15 yards and passed away. And then the other toms came in and beat up him and beat up the decoy, and got a bunch of video and pictures and stuff like that of them. But just an unbelievable hunt, kind of what you would dream of for getting out there. But yeah, so that was pretty much the capper to the week. That was the last out-of-state tag I had for this year. So
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, how cool too to get one in. That's what you always want when you're in a blind, but to get one in that close to where you got to physically stand up or you won't get the shot out of the blind is pretty awesome and unique. Because, I mean, like I said, if you're hunting out of a blind, especially with bow, that's the whole goal is 10 yards and in. So literally
right.
We had one at, 3 yards practically.
Yeah, it was two steps, like 2 wide steps from me. So it was, like I said, I mean, if anyone's ever put up a blind, where you put your tie-down stake is where it was. Like, it was unreal. I literally could have probably grabbed him if I was a little bit more nimble, but it was unreal. And I've shot a lot of turkeys out of blinds, shot a lot of turkeys, within 10 yards, but never have I shot one, that close before. It's almost like shooting a carp. When you're bow fishing, you just kind of look down the arrow and try to get him. But super cool. And, I mean, overall, shoot, that's a heck of a week, It's a week that guys like us dream about because we get to do the travel and we're going to have the opportunities. But, typically it's like deer where you just don't know what kind of luck you're going to have. You can hunt your butt off all week and not kill a bird. And I honestly was just going to be happy with coming out of this week with 50% of the tags filled. And we ended up filling everything on the first day, on the day we hunted for it, which is unreal. We literally hunted
right.
4 days and or 5 days, I guess, if you want to count youth season here in Missouri. So we hunted 5 out of 7 days and shot 5 birds in 4 states. And it's just, it's cool that it comes together like that. And you kind of got to soak it up when it does, because hunting will teach you real quick if you take it for granted.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you go on a trip like that, you hope to get one down or, in that case where you're hunting multiple states with some extra tags, like you said, 50% would be doing awesome. But like to knock them and your birds down in 7 days is like, something you really kind of dream of.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with a bow and on camera, that's just 2 things that just complicate things, So, but yeah, pretty crazy. I think it kind of goes to show, and hopefully guys can take away from it the versatility of kind of reading what's going on in your turkey woods. You know what I mean? If you have birds coming in that are shying from a strutter, then take it out of there and throw just hens out, and that can be the game changer. Just little bitty tweaks can really kind of feel the pulse for what the birds are doing in the area. And we killed birds all kinds of ways. I mean, we reaped one, we shot one without strutters, we shot one with strutters. It's just kind of you got to kind of do what they want to do this time of the year. It's tough, and it's you give it another 2 weeks and you can probably kill a turkey however you want to force feed it to them. But right now it's more about right now it's more about just finding what they want to do. And there's so many dang satellite birds out right now, those young 2-year-old toms or even 3-year-olds that are just submissive toms that don't really want to fight. But you can kill them, and they're great toms to kill, and they'll come in great, and they'll work a call probably better than any other bird will. But you just got to have the right decoy set up to where they finish well. And we just got lucky and got that, found that out early in Kansas and kind of got it right. Throughout every state and kind of, changed it up, used the reaper in one where we thought we could get away with it. And that was kind of the cool thing for me, is just the versatility of how we were able to do it and still have the success. So it's always a win.
Yeah, for sure. And, I like what you said there about just, taking the time to kind of read the turkeys and going along with that, because like you actually had said earlier in the podcast, they're a little bit temperamental. And and that can really work to your benefit, because they could not come in 1 minute, and then, like you said, you pull that out, once you kind of get that clear where they can't see you, pull out that decoy, and a second later they kind of forgot that bird was even there, and they come running.
Right.
So
exactly,
if you can read them and kind of work that language, I mean, anything can happen with those birds, especially out west where they're a little bit less pressured than like you have in Missouri and I have in Michigan.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you can, I mean, there's always a way to kill a turkey. You know what I mean? There's not a turkey that's just unkillable. There's some that are tough. Don't get me wrong, but you start dealing with call shy birds, that's tough. You start dealing with decoy shy birds aren't as bad. You just gotta, hunt them without a decoy. But there's always a way, and I think guys kind of get something set up. I can't tell you how many guys you talk to before season starts that they're like, I'm doing it this way, and they'll go out and they won't kill a bird for the whole year because they tried it their way, and their way was never what they wanted. You know what I mean? Like you just got to be able to say, hey, I'm gonna blind hunt them, and I'm gonna, if I want to shoot them with a bow, I'm gonna blind hunt them, and I'm gonna run just hens, or I'm gonna run and gun on them with a bow and no decoys, or there's just, I can't tell you. We just change strategies throughout the year all the time for turkeys, and it's just really a matter of, like I say, just reading the pulse of what they do and failing, and when you fail, figure out why you failed and try something new and throw it at them. And if you had a bird shy from a reaper or from a strutter the day before, it's probably going to shy from the strutter again the next day. But if you go in there and take the strutter out and just give him hens, he's probably going to go ahead and work on in. So those are just things where I think guys, make changes on the cuff. They become a lot more successful with it. Yeah,
for sure. And, like you said, to me, it's turkey hunting. And if there's a time to be aggressive or to do something you don't normally do as a hunter, do that during turkey season, because who cares? If there's not one today, there might be one tomorrow. If there's, one on the neighbors, he might come over today. So change. Don't be afraid to change those tactics, because normally there's a lot of stuff we don't do during deer hunting season. So this is, to me, such a perfect time to be a little more experimental.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because we talk about, I run interns every year, and my interns have to come down and film spring turkey hunts because it's the time to mess up because you're going to have chances. You know what I mean? We're going to have opportunities, and I can tell you that, I whitetail hunt from pretty much September 1st to January 15th, and I can count on one hand how many actual opportunities I have at shooters through that time frame. So
that's right.
Take that and take that in retrospect with turkeys. I had probably 8 chances, 9 chances, maybe even 10 chances just this last 4 days.
Right.
With shooting a bird within 30 yards. Yeah, it's just, it's there. So you're absolutely right, man. Don't be afraid to come out of your comfort zone with turkeys and get, try whatever you want to try, but just don't force feed it to them. Like, if that's not the way you're gonna kill them, then try to adapt it and change it and see if they like it and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. No, again, that's the one cool thing about turkey hunting is they'll let you know if they're interested. Because if they're interested, they're coming. So don't be afraid to do anything until that point to change until they're interested. Because once they are, they're letting you know it's working. So that's the cool thing about turkey hunting for sure. So
absolutely.
But man, thanks, Blake. Man, I'm super excited. You had such a great week, and always fun to get with you and chat with you. And what's next?
Yeah, so Missouri opens on the 20th. I may end up trying to go somewhere else. I've got some options to go to like Oklahoma this week or going out to eastern Tennessee this week. It's really just going to matter on how much I want to travel. I kind of want to be home right now and sleep in my own bed for a couple nights at least and actually sleep.
I don't blame you.
Get kind of rested back up. If I get a wild hair, I may go somewhere at the end of the week. But ultimately getting ready for Missouri and the 20th, and I get to pick up a shotgun finally, and I'm going to shotgun 2 reaper birds and try to, we're going to try to do the whole 2-foot, 3-foot try to break the 5-foot mark with shotgun and a reaper, which I think we can pull it off. But we'll see. It's always fun to get back home and reap some birds with those Easterns are just ruthless when it comes to aggressiveness and coming into a reaper really well. And heck, if you got a shotgun in your hand, you can lay there and let them come the whole way. So pretty excited about throwing down some content for reaping and stuff like that.
That's the 20th you guys start?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We start the 20th. Yep.
Well, perfect, man. Well, good luck. Good luck that day on the 20th. I think ours, if it doesn't get canceled, it's the 18th. They actually changed it this year. Usually it's the 20th, or would be the 20th this year, but they actually changed it, which is nice because it opens on a Saturday. Usually it's always on a Monday, but best of luck, and hopefully we'll catch up another podcast after you reap a couple more.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Stay safe. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you guys know, every week you can find us on the Unfiltered Outdoor app, iTunes, Outdoor Podcast channel.